Welcome to what is the first instalment of the Twin Elements podcast, proudly presented by Venture Hunting and Outdoors. If you're like us and passionate about hunting, spearfishing, and many other outdoor-related pursuits with an eagerness to fast-track your learning, then this podcast is perfect for you. Venture Hunting and Outdoors is Australia's premier hunting retailer. Venture started from a team of passionate hunters with the mission to give Australian hunters the resource they deserve. Through community events, top quality gear, exclusive deals, and expert guidance, Venture is more than a hunting store. It's a community. Alrighty, friends, we are live. I am joined today by James, and you are hearing the voice of Ayden Doumtsis. We are the hosts of the Twin Elements podcast. We should probably start off with where we are and why this is all possible. We're at our home in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. James and I rarely get the chance to sort of come together with work and the logistics of life as adults. But transitioning from 2024 to 2025, we thought this would be as good a time as ever to get together and effectively get things organised for Twin Elements. Meeting like this together hasn't really been possible, as I said earlier, because of the logistics surrounding the work that James and I do. So I might hand over to James and let him just describe what the last few months or years have sort of been like work-wise for him.
Yeah, so the last 2 years I've been FIFOing to and from Tasmania, originally going up to Townsville and then now more recently to Armidale in New South Wales. But yeah, down in Tasmania, managing a big vet clinic, predominantly doing dairy cows and beef cows on a 2-on or 3-on one-off roster, which has made it hard logistically not only to go hunting but also just even trying to keep up with Twin Elements work. So of late, Ayden and I have really been putting in the effort to try and keep the episodes and especially the YouTube videos rolling out and keeping up with social media output. But yeah, it's just made it a little bit difficult for Ayden and I actually to meet up in person. And yeah, it seems that when we do, we're pretty much either out in the field hunting or sitting behind a computer and just smashing out the edits for you guys.
Yeah, and so just to roll on with that, like the last 2 years, I graduated uni and have been working as a vet as well. My residency was sort of in the Northern Territory, based out of Katherine, which is a very remote sort of town. The township itself has a few thousand people. But then a lot of my work was on remote cattle stations doing sort of pretty physical work in cattle pregnancy testing and horse works and things like that, often travelling large distances to get from station to station, living out of the back of my car and sort of servicing that greater Katherine area when I wasn't sort of back there in the clinic, which again, similar to what James alluded to, it just makes doing your passion and this Twin Elements work quite hard when you've got a full-time job that's often not at home in the comfort of your own home. So we're very pleased to announce that, yeah, from 2025, James is essentially going to be moving and setting up in Armidale in New South Wales, and I'll be moving back to Townsville in North Queensland, where we will effectively set up, prioritise hunting a lot more, do a hell of a whole lot less vet work effectively, and really prioritise the Twin Elements, which we're extremely, proud of where it's transitioned since our establishment of the brand in 2020 to where it is now. And yeah, it just gives us more incentive to get this podcast going, to keep going with the YouTube videos, and really bring you guys the best content that we can sort of create and show you guys what we're doing with our passions and pursuits.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a huge year in 2025 for us, including Twin Elements. I mean, both you and I just stepping back from the vet work and going full send into the Twin Elements work, whether it be out in the field hunting or, we've been talking about doing this podcast for over 1.5 years now, and finally to see it up and running is almost a dream come true. So we're definitely excited to be throwing a heap more media out there, whether it be on our YouTube channel or through the podcast in 2025, but we just really want to reconnect with you guys, our listeners and viewers, and see what you guys want to hear and see from us, and hopefully we can get that out there for you.
So it sort of makes sense now to sort of direct the podcast in the way of 2025 and the future releases, or a bit of a release schedule from us. Essentially what we're aiming to do from early Feb is on most Wednesdays, or every Wednesday of the year there on out, at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time seems to be that magical hour for us. We're aiming to release sort of what we're known for is those feature films and YouTube videos over on our YouTube channel, which is Twin Elements, TWINELEMENTS. From there, we're effectively going to be starting in prime time with a 5-part series, Fallow Rut Hunt, where we follow our good mate Nick Morton around the hills for close to 2 weeks. The hunt itself is filmed a couple of years ago, but the quality of the footage and some of the scenes that we encounter are absolutely insane. So really keen to bring that to you. As I said, that will be beginning in Feb, sort of the middle of Feb. It's scheduled for release, and that includes prime hunting from the New South Wales Hunter Valley area for fallow deer. There's some bonus feral pig action in there, as well as some beautiful wildlife and scenery from those parts of the world.
Then we'll be releasing, we're not really sure whether it be a 5 to 10 part series, more of a vlog style series from the Against All Odds US film, where I was lucky enough to draw a very premier tag in Montana, and Ayden came and filmed it all. So it was a 20-day hunt, which we just saw some insane rutting encounters and just the opportunities that we had on massive bull elk. It's just hard to believe. So we've condensed that down and sort of produced that first film, which really showcased sort of the opportunities and the insane hunting that we had. But we just wanted to release another sort of more vlog style series, just because it was so hard to showcase everything. And there's so much of the film and the hunt, I guess, that got cut out in the way that when I was editing it, there was 40 hours in the timeline that got essentially cut down to, I think it was 36 odd minutes. So you can imagine there's a lot of stuff that's been left out, and a lot of questions that we've had from people in terms of interactions and how the hunt went will sort of be answered in that more vlog style series. So that one should be dropping in late March. That one will also be in collaboration with Hunting Full again, who we've jumped on as partners with. If you're interested in using Hunting Full's license applications to create better hunt strategies and draw more tags across the west of the United States, email applications@huntingfull.com. That is applications, APPLICATIONS at HUNTINFOOL.com, and mention Twin Elements to get 25% off your first year's services. The Hunting Full team will take care of the rest.
From there, we will continue with a couple of buffalo films, which originate from the Northern Territory, Australia, where James and I, as well as Dad, we had a special guest on one of the hunts, go about our business hunting buffalo, feral pigs up in the Northern Territory of Australia. One is a dry season hunt, and the other is a build-up sort of hunt just before the wet season. So you'll be able to see the differences, similarities. We can talk plenty about that in some later podcasts, but those should be really, really good. The action was insane. Just hunting in such remote places and landscapes is really addictive, battling the heat and humidity and things like that, and just it becomes not so much a physical burden, but also a mental effort just to keep putting the miles in, knowing that at some point you're going to be rewarded with encounters on animals that often at times haven't ever seen humans. So just hunting in places like that is truly rewarding.
And then that will take us through to July, where we've got a couple of bantang and boar films. And to be honest, this whole lineup that we've got coming out in the essentially the first half of next year, I'm super stoked to put out there for you guys, because the live footage and the quality of the camera work that we've put into it is just next level. A lot of the stuff that you've been seeing has been stuff that we recorded a couple of years ago, whereas a lot of this stuff that you're about to see in the next 6 months is sort of more of our recent work, I guess. So I can honestly say these bantang and boar films that we're going to be putting out is probably closer to more of our old style footage that we used to release a couple of years ago, in terms of it is just back-to-back action. The amount of live game footage we have of bantang and boars is just has to really be seen to be believed. I mean, especially the boar hunts. Ayden and I were pretty lucky to have a few insane afternoons where we just absolutely capitalised, shot handfuls of balls each, pretty much until we effectively ran out of arrows. So we're super excited to bring those films to you in July, and we know you guys are going to love them. So it's just a matter of us finding the time to edit them, which we've got plenty of time to do now. So we can't wait to get them out for you guys.
Absolutely. And building off of all these like YouTube releases, we're really excited because it gives us a platform where hopefully we're aiming for every Monday moving forward from when you first hear this podcast to be releasing a new episode. So effectively we're aiming for 50 odd episodes next year in 2025, which should keep us pretty busy, but it just gives us such an avenue to sort of go into depth on these bangtang and boar films. So for example, around July when that film releases or those 4-part series releases, you can expect, tips and tactics on hunting bedded boars. And that should be applicable to most places in Australia, especially up in the Northern Territory. But even when these films drop for March in the USA, we can talk about mindset and preparation for USA hunts. So it just gives us a platform and an avenue to really explore a lot of, I guess, what we find as just everyday common knowledge and things that we probably take for granted for. But it's something that you guys as our listeners and viewers of our channel on YouTube hopefully really can draw something out of. So we're aiming for those 50 podcasts to complement sort of what we're doing throughout the year and have a bit of seasonality to it, as well as do some live podcasts in the field for whenever we're doing any hunting trips. So for example, if we're out in the Northern Territory in a buffalo camp, we'll hopefully get the fire atmosphere around, talk about what's transpired throughout the day, as well as any bonus episodes where relevant. For example, if it's coming up to the rut, we might be able to drop an extra rut tips or tactics or something like that. So that's sort of all for the podcast side of things. Pretty excited to just, now that it's up and running, just continue with the momentum we've created.
So another event that you guys need to chuck into your calendar is on Friday the 14th and Saturday the 15th of February. Ayden and I are going to be in store at the Springwood store in Brisbane for Venture Hunting and Outdoors. So we're going to be in the store all day, which will then lead into some social events after work. So we're going to be doing some Q&As. We're going to be doing some information sessions, mainly focused around the rut hunting for fallow and reds. So if you have any questions, make sure to send them through. But equally, come into the stores during the day and come and say hello. If you've got any questions on gear, hunt tactics, we're going to be in there all day just answering questions and helping customers out. So come down, say hello. And it's going to be an awesome event. We can't wait.
And just further to that, make sure you guys are keeping an eye out on our socials as well as the socials of Venture Hunting on Instagram and their website, because as this event gets closer and we get closer to that rut period, we know that we've spoken with the team and they're pretty keen to release some rut sort of sale deals, as well as just make sure that all the gear that we sort of stock ourselves that have been proven over many ruts of hunting are available to you guys at great prices. And it's just one of those things that we wouldn't really be pushing anything unless we use it ourselves. So it's got that verification from us, which can give you guys a bit more confidence in hopefully getting the buck or stag of your dreams this year. Cayuga Broadheads are engineered for success and built by experience. These are the broadheads we trust for all of our bow hunts. Whether it's elk in Montana, buffalo and bangtang bulls in Australia's Northern Territory, or tahr in New Zealand, we have ultimate confidence in their range. James is currently shooting the 150 grain pilot cuts with bleeders, whilst I'm currently loving the 150 grain Zots. Regardless of your preferred broadhead, quality performance is guaranteed across the range. Alrighty, so as part of this podcast, something that we're really excited to sort of be able to deliver is dedicating a section towards frequently asked questions or FAQs of our listeners. So that is all of you guys. If you have a question for us that you would like answered or think would benefit the greater audience, then please send us an email with the subject line FAQ to info@twinalements.com.au. That is info at twinalements, twinellements.com.au. Or if it's easier and you'd prefer, please DM us at any of the following Instagram accounts. That is Ayden Doumtsis Outdoors, James Doumtsis Outdoors, or Twin Elements.
With that, if you let us know as well if you want to be mentioned when we read out these questions, because some people, might not like their name read out, but some people obviously want to feature on the podcast. So just let us know if you want us to drop your name and where you're from when we read out these questions.
And I think like to get a bit more feedback and incentive and things like this and just really add to that community spirit, like obviously keep an ear out, but hopefully we can get down the line as this podcast gets bigger and everything that we're doing keeps continuing in the right direction. We can hopefully get some prizes out to people that are offering their contributions and giving us really good questions that we think can either like lead to even future podcast episodes or just have a really good discussion within a podcast. So we're hoping to really make this like an immersive experience for everyone. On that, without further ado, we'll get into today's questions. So we've had this one sent in for as long as we've been hunting by hunters and non-hunters alike. And what is your favourite marinade for a backstrap? I'll let James answer that one first.
I guess I should probably clarify. So when we talk about backstrap, we're talking about that muscle that runs along the top of the spine. Awesome cut of meat, probably the go-to for most hunters if they are going to be carrying out meat here in the South Pacific. But I'm a bit of a sweet tooth when it comes to my marinade. And so my favourite is definitely sort of a honey soy or honey mustard. Definitely going to be chucking in plenty of garlic in there, a little bit of chili as well, and salt and pepper. I like to keep it fairly simple, but yeah, more probably a sweet style marinade. Awesome on like an open fire or like an open grill, just because it sort of caramelizes up and goes all sticky and gooey and absolutely delicious. So that's probably my go-to, the old honey soy or honey mustard.
A great tip there. And I feel like for me, I'm going to say, this is probably the Greek coming out of me, but I'm going to lean towards a lemon, oregano, garlic, salt and pepper sort of marinade. And one of the things with this is the earlier that you can marinate it and leave it overnight or for a day or something like that, similar to like fish and lime and lemon, when you do a ceviche and the acidity of the lemon sort of cooks through that flesh and that protein. If you can do this at an earlier stage and really let that marinade take effect on the meat, you'll find that it actually tenderizes it quite a lot. And then one of the preparations and cooking tips with backstrap is, especially with deer or venison, is that once you remove that silver skin, it's a very lean sort of tender meat. So you don't want to be cooking it too low or slow. Essentially, you want to cut a backstrap into like 1 centimeter pieces or cook it whole, but really cook it on a high temperature, cook it to medium rare. So you're effectively sealing the outside, having it nice and pink on the middle and going from there. And that lemon, oregano, garlic, salt and pepper sort of recipe that I really like is great with like salads, or you can add it to wraps and have a bit of like a souvlaki sort of styled meat. It ends up coming up beautiful on the barbecue.
I guess another question that we commonly get, especially when I was hunting in the US, is what type of mapping software are you guys using commonly on your hunts? So I run Onyx just purely because I love it, and it's so durable in the sense that like you can pull so much data and do so much planning for your hunts. A lot of the spots that I found when I first went to the US in my first year and was just doing over the counter, it was purely just spots that I'd found on the internet from reading, trying to target bedding areas, trying to target open benches where they might have a bit of feed, work out where the water source is in the area or in the gully system, and then just go from there and really sort of pin down and work out those transition corridors. And like even just for working out how far, the possibility of hiking in somewhere is to hunt or camp, or trying to work out if you can even, get into somewhere from looking at the topo maps and stuff like that, and how steep an area is, like just the usability of Onyx needs to be seen to be believed. So that's sort of my go-to when I'm in the US, but we sort of run different stuff when we're here in Australia.
Yeah, so following on from that, James and I, the last probably 5 years or so, have been using an app called GPS Kit, which is available on the App Store for definitely iPhone users. I'm not sure if it is for Android. We'll have to check that out for you guys. And mention something in our Instagram stories or something when this episode drops. But GPS Kit is really, really handy. From memory, it's a once-off purchase of around $30 Australian. And then within that, you have the ability of downloading offline satellite maps to a pretty high standard, honestly, probably higher quality than what you'd need. It's been essential for me hunting up in the Northern Territory on massive parcels of land, especially in like the dry season when you're trying to look for these tiny little pockets of water and things like that. And anything that's green or sort of looks like a dam or a bit of mud, I basically will drop a pin on. So it's got a drop pin function on that within that GPS kit app. And then effectively as well, I will run a tracking kit or a tracking map basically, where from the start, once I leave the car in the morning, I'll hit track, and that track essentially runs all day. It can run on aeroplane mode, which is super handy because you don't have service in these parts of the world. And essentially that just tells me where I am within that map at all times. So I'll often drop a drop pin at the car, walk to that first pin that I've already pre-scouted at home with all the water points that I have in mind that I'd like to check out, and then can basically do big loops and then move to different areas and keep going in that fashion. Another thing that I love about this GPS kit is that you can take real-time images, and then say you found an awesome wallow and you want to remember that drop pin, you can obviously save the drop pin and just call it Massive Wallow, but you can also take a real-time photo from the app and upload it so it's there, and adds a bit of data and sort of intel to this scheme that you're working on towards, figuring out a piece of land or a new property that you're hunting. So GPS kit is definitely one that's underrated, has been proven here in Australia to work really, really well. And those downloadable maps for offline use are really, really essential bits of kit.
Yeah, I have a lot of time for GPS kit. Probably the only limitation I reckon I've found personally is the fact that it doesn't have a sort of a 3D mode. So yeah, it's been awesome when we've been chittle hunting up sort of around Charters Towers, incredible through the Northern Territory, up in the Cape and stuff like that. Using it around home, sort of New South Wales and up in the mountains and stuff, it has had a few more limitations in the sense that, obviously it's a bit harder to read topo and sort of plan a stalk. But definitely, yeah, in terms of marking points and, adding in wallows, like Ayden was saying, or adding in scrapes for bucks and that type of thing, and just sort of navigating your way around the mountains, getting back to the car, super handy. But yeah, wish it did have a 3D function, purely just for the mountains. You don't really have that problem when you're hunting more flatland north country. But I mean, there's a million other mapping softwares as well, so I'm sure there'll be a few other suggestions from you guys about other ones that we could potentially be checking out, but those two are definitely the ones that we've found to be the best out on our hunts.
And that's where we'll definitely deep dive into this as a future podcast episode, where we'll talk specifically about, a number of mapping softwares, as well as the best functions to try and be using and making sure you're using on your hunts. But it is definitely also worth saying that the Garmin InReach or anything similar to that, we both just have a Garmin and use it and always have it in our packs for that emergency function where you can effectively use it as an EPIRB as well as the mapping software. They're an incredibly handy bit of kit, as well as getting those subscriptions where you can send out texts and alerts and things like that to people, such as your loved ones. So you could be in America, in Montana in America, and effectively say like, home at camp, safe for the night, love you, something like that, to a spouse or a loved one back home in Australia. They can get that and sort of, converse with each other through that app. So that's really, really great. And that's probably just another one that, finds its way into our pack. Hopefully that's given you guys a bit better understanding as to what to expect from us in the early part of 2025. You can obviously tell that this is a work in progress and something that we're going to hopefully polish up over time. But we're really, really excited to delivering you guys with just some new podcast material in the hunting scene. We think that we have a lot to offer that we're really excited to be discussing with you guys and presenting to you guys in the Twin Elements podcast. In other news from us, the Twin Elements website is essentially done. We've put in a mountain of work into getting this going in the background. It's just going to be a central hub that basically has links to all of our YouTubes, Instagrams, TikToks, Facebooks, whatever it may be, as well as our chittle deer hunts with spotted safaris and some new guided hunting opportunities that James will be introducing in 2025 as well, which is incredibly exciting. And that can be all discussed in future episodes and on our socials. But a massive part of that is also the Twin Elements print section, which is taking the longest bit of time and a little bit more time than anticipated, just due to the logistics of suppliers, transport and order processing and all that type of stuff. So we are hoping to get that done in the next month and hopefully available by Feb. But if anyone is desperate for any of our images or anything like that, then please send us an email at info@twinelements.com.au with the subject line prints, and we can have a chat about trying to organise some custom prints and get them over to you guys a little bit quicker, because we do have the facilities to get those prints sorted now. It's just actually getting it all processed as products and things on the website is taking a little bit longer than expected, but we do have hopes to get that to you within the next month or so, which is very, very exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to get those prints done. There's some epic photos. We've had a lot of people ask in the past if they can get done as prints, and it has taken a while, but we're nearly there. We're in the final stages, so that should be done in the next month or so, which then you guys can jump on and order whichever ones you guys want. So with that, just make sure that obviously you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you're also subscribed to our YouTube channel. All the support that you guys give us, I guess that helps drive us, but it also makes this dream for us more feasible and allows us to put more time and effort into our Twin Elements work, which essentially just keeps the ball rolling on our media outputs, whether it be through this podcast or through our YouTube. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast. We really appreciate all your support, but also make sure to jump onto our YouTube channel if you haven't already subscribed there, as well as our multiple Instagram accounts that Ayden and I are running. We've got quite the collection going now between obviously a Twin Elements account and our Spotted Safaris account, which is our Chittle Deer guiding account, and then our personal accounts being James Doumtsis Outdoors and Ayden Doumtsis Outdoors. So we have quite a lot of platforms that we've sort of collected in the last couple of years, and we've just added another one to the list, but we are super excited about it. Can't wait to be doing this weekly for you guys and really just build that community.
So as well as supporting us, please do us a favour and support those who support us, ideally those people that we use their gear with. If you check out the episode description and show links and things like that below, we'll make sure that we give you guys exclusive podcast discounts through all of those ambassadorships that we have available to us. We just want to extend that the quality gear that we're using on our hunts that's tried and proven is available to you guys as our listeners. Lastly, from me, I just want to also throw in that if anyone has any topics that you want discussed on future episodes, effectively, we have a pretty good idea of like what we want to do, but just it helps if you guys could also send an email to info@twinelements.com.au with the subject line podcast. That would be amazing, because that can just help prioritize stuff. Like if we've got stuff that we want to release in September, just say, but we get 10 people emailing us to say, hey, can you do a podcast on sambar deer during the rut? We're going to release that sooner. So it's just a supply and demand sort of thing. If you've got something that you want discussed, as well as those frequently asked questions, then please, communicate with us, send us emails, send us DMs. We want this to be as interactive as possible moving forward.
Well, I think that wraps up our first podcast, Legends. Thank you from Ayden and I so much. We really appreciate for you guys tuning in. Appreciate you guys subscribing and really supporting the channel. It does mean the world to us, and we really want to make this a community-based channel. We want this to sort of really hype up the hunting community as a whole and the outdoor community, and really just sort of unite us under one sort of banner and one platform. So thank you again for all your support from the bottom of our heart. We really do appreciate it.